Athletic Subcommittee meeting and a Committee of the Whole meeting. Roll call, please.
Member Pena?
Present.
Member Castellanos?
Present.
Member Dugan?
Present.
Member Capola?
Present.
Member Gately?
Present.
Member Magnolia?
Present.
Mayor Nicholson?
Present.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Tutwiler.
Yeah, we were planning to revisit the conversation about the Boverini tournament this afternoon or this evening, and in our plan, we've discovered a snag actually late this morning, and so my recommendation would be to table it and allow us to come back on the 26th to present it to you.
Motion to table the discussion.
Second.
Second.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
All right, motion adjourned.
Second.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
I'm next. Call to order the Curriculum Subcommittee meeting. Roll call, please.
Member Magnolia?
Present.
Member Dugan?
Present.
Member Gately?
Present. We have a presentation for the K through 8 math book adoption. I would like to invite Kay Altieri and Jay Ward up to do the presentation. I'm sorry, I don't have your full names, or I would call you by your full name, so.
No worries. Introduce ourselves.
Thank you.
My glasses. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carrie Altieri. I am one of the Assistant Directors of Curriculum for Mathematics. I'll let the rest of the team introduce themselves.
Good evening, Julie Ward, the other Assistant Director for Curriculum and Instruction for Mathematics.
Tim Phelps, I'm the Math Department Head at Breed Middle School.
And Caitlin Wexler, I teach third grade at Callaghan.
Okay. We're really excited tonight to be here to speak about the grades K through 8 curriculum adoption. Okay, so we're going to first talk about the pillars. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, in their quick reference guide, Assessing Your Curriculum Landscape, addresses 3 main pillars on choosing a curriculum and maintaining a curriculum program, which are ready access, high quality, and standards aligned. You can find DESE's definition on those pillars in our PowerPoint. With the current contract of Houghton Mifflin ending in June of 2020, identifying a vendor with a rigorous, culturally responsive math curriculum that provides equitable access for all of our students was of the utmost importance to our team. Additionally, we also had the opportunity to apply for the Accelerating Mathematics Instruction for Students 22-23 grant through the Department of Education. Slide there. With weekly guidance from the Department of Education and using the DESE recommended process for curriculum review and adoption, K through 8 educators were invited to be part of the math curriculum leadership team. We embarked on a 4-phase process. Those phases included learn and prepare, investigate and select, launch, and implement and monitor. We would like to extend our thank you to the dedicated educators who spent many hours, including these two, working on this process. Participants on the committee included math coaches, teachers, program specialists, middle school department heads, special education educators, and English language educators from various schools. Our team members are as follows: Caitlin Wexler, Renee Parisi, Jessica Lees, Nicole O'Leary, Stephanie Miller, Erin Zukowski, Jill Bradley, Beth Kirkle, Bailey Bogart, Kenwy Valdez, Alicia Burnett, Rita Gallo, Heather Angus, Helena Diamond, Christina Agarwal, Renee Philbrook, Mary Archambault, Tim Phelps, Tiffany McFarland, Judy Serino, Jacqueline Gallo, and Amanda Campbell. During the Learn and Prepare phase, the team analyzed math data, both performance and demographic. And we'll pull up our demographic data there. We identified district math needs, calibrated understanding around culturally responsive teaching and learning, and cognitively demanding math tasks. We modified the DESE Curate rubric to include a focus using a local lens to meet the needs of our student population. We have up here for you guys to look at. We revisited the Lynn Public Schools Strategic Initiatives 1.2 and 1.4. 1.2 states that we should provide high-quality, accessible instruction and interventions that respond to the diverse learning styles of our students. 1.4 states that we provide updated, relevant, culturally responsive curriculum materials, including technology that connects students to real-world applications. The team worked collaboratively to create a shared vision for Lynn Public Schools math instruction. The shared vision, which is up here, the shared vision was used to guide our process. The vision reads as follows: to create a math learning environment where all learners have equitable access to high-quality curriculum and instruction that is anchored in rigorous lessons and includes students' experiences, where all student voices are heard and students see themselves as mathematicians, where students are sharing their ideas about math, using math tools, representations, and hands-on materials to problem solve and develop individual math understanding through reasoning, respectfully challenging the ideas of others, and the inclusive use of language strategies. In the investigate and select phase, our team started the deep review process. Our team, just making sure you're seeing the right slide, our team analyzed 4 curricular programs using our internally adapted Curate rubric. The programs included Illustrative Mathematics from Imagine Learning, iReady Classroom Instruction from iReady, Into Mathematics from HMH, and Reveal from McGraw-Hill. Our team was then further divided into 4 smaller teams who dove deeper into each product and presented out their findings to the larger group. Using our vision as our guide star, an adapted rubric to rate each program, the leadership team investigated the resources and presented their group findings to the math leadership team. The team voted and narrowed the curricular resources down to 2 programs, iReady and Illustrative Mathematics. The team members then worked collaboratively and encouraged educators to pilot units and lessons from the 2 remaining curricular resources. Feedback was gathered from the stakeholders through surveys, team meetings, classroom observations, and meetings with classroom teachers. I'm going to let Julie take it from there.
Thanks, Carrie. As a result of the comprehensive analysis of the curricular, we are recommending Illustrative Mathematics as our core curricular program for grades K through 8 for school year 22-23. Illustrative Mathematics is student-centered, highly engaging, discourse-rich with multiple embedded language routines, promotes hands-on learning experiences, is investigation-driven, and culturally responsive. This is one quote from a member of our math leadership team. IM will also change the format of math instruction, with the students in the driver's seat and the teachers facilitating meaningful conversations. Illustrative Math's design principles are key aspects of the curriculum that elevate its quality and align with our Lynn Public Schools Math Department instructional vision. These materials reflect 3 key design principles that support and engage all students in today's diverse mathematics classrooms: access for all, presumed competence, and strengths-based approach. Principle 1, access for all, is a foundational design principle that draws from the Universal Design for Learning framework and shapes the instructional goals, recommended practices, lesson plans, and assessments to support a flexible approach to instruction, ensuring all students have an equitable opportunity to learn. Principle 2, presumed competence. All students are individuals who can learn, apply, and enjoy mathematics. These activities and these materials position all students to capitalize on their existing abilities and provide support to eliminate any potential barriers. Each lesson is designed for a wide range of ability, and all students are given access to grade-level problems. Student competence to engage with mathematical tasks is assumed, and with additional supports provided only when needed. Principle 3, a strengths-based approach. All students, including students with disabilities and English learners, are resourceful and resilient members of the mathematical community. When unique strengths and interests of students with disabilities or English learners are highlighted during the class lesson, their contributions enhance the learning for all in the classroom. These design principles create a learning environment where all students see themselves as mathematicians. The 5 guiding principles that support the program: learning by doing mathematics, balancing rigor, purposeful representations, instructional routines, and community building are all important components that I'm briefly going to highlight now. So a problem-based curriculum framework supports students in structuring lessons so that students are the ones doing the problem solving to learn the mathematics. The activities and routines are designed to give teachers opportunities to see what students already know and what they can notice and figure out, having concepts and procedures instead of having concepts and procedures explained to them. 3 aspects of rigor are essential to mathematics: conceptual understanding, procedural fluency, and application of mathematics context within, inside and outside of real-world applications. Purposeful representations are embedded in the materials to help students develop an understanding of mathematical concepts and to guide students in solving problems. Across lessons and units, students are systematically introduced to representations and encouraged to use the ones that make sense to them. As the learning progresses, students make connections between different representations and the concepts and procedures they represent. Over time, they will see and understand more efficient methods of representing when solving problems, which supports the development of procedural fluency. The instructional routines that are embedded across the curriculum contribute to mathematical conversations and support the language routines. Throughout the curriculum, routines are introduced in purposeful ways, and some examples of these routines are number talks, which one doesn't belong, and notice and wonder. Community building is an important element that's embedded in this curricular resource, and it supports students to develop productive dispositions about mathematics to help them engage in mathematical practices. It's important for teachers to start off the day or the year establishing these norms and routines and build a mathematics community. In a mathematics community, all students have the opportunity to express their mathematical ideas and discuss them with others, which encourages collective learning. I'm going to highlight the instructional design of the units, and then we're going to watch a brief video, and then our colleagues are going to explain their experiences as members of our math team. So the instructional design of Illustrative Mathematics, the materials support all learners through a coherent progression of all the mathematics based on the standards and research-based learning trajectories. Each activity and lesson is a part of a mathematical story across units and grade levels. This coherence allows students to view mathematics as a connected set of ideas that make sense to them. There are multiple levels, and I'm going to invite you to watch a very short video that discusses the program in a little bit more depth.
School districts across the country are discovering how to empower teachers while saving them valuable planning and prep time every day. With Imagine Learning Illustrative Mathematics, districts get the highest quality math program powered by a best-in-class digital delivery. By partnering with Illustrative Mathematics, authored by Dr. Bill McCallum, we have developed the first IM certified curricula for grades kindergarten through high school. It not only scored reading on every Edward metric, it also works seamlessly with your LMS, making it easier for teachers to plan and orchestrate student discussions. The result? Positive student outcomes in math. Imagine Learning Illustrative Mathematics is a problem-based program designed for students to reach deep conceptual understanding while being accountable for their learning. The lessons are designed to focus on independent, small group, and whole class instruction. Slides and teaching notes help transition from independent work time to discussion and problem-solving time, and scaffolded support and extensions meet the needs of all students. In this lesson, students are learning ratios, and teachers have pacing guides, student response examples, and key questions. Students use collections of objects to make sense of and use ratio language. They also learn that there are several different ways to describe a situation using ratio language. These are great opportunities to engage student discourse. This end-of-unit assessment gives automatic feedback, gauging students' understanding of the key concepts, and can be customized as needed. You can see how Imagine Learning puts everything in place, giving teachers the tools they need for creative engagement and strategic instruction. Teachers love Imagine Learning Illustrative Mathematics because it's designed to optimize both planning and instruction. The classroom-ready slides are organized and included in the lessons, and the content is easy to navigate, so you don't spend extra time searching for what you want to plan for your instruction. The lessons materials are linked right at point of use, so you're only a click away from the resources you need, exactly when you need them. Plus, Imagine Learning Illustrative Mathematics supports differentiation by providing teachers with formative assessments, guidance for students who need additional support, and extension activities that push students deeper into the math. Through its organization of curriculum and tools, Imagine Learning Illustrative Mathematics saves your teachers an average of 45 minutes per day. It's platform and device friendly, making it easy for teachers and students to use in the classroom and at home.
I'm now going to,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm now going to turn this over to Tim Phelps from Breed Middle School and then Caitlin Weschler from Callahan Elementary School to share their experiences as members of our math curriculum leadership team.
Good evening. I want to thank Carrie and Julie for giving, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'll just speak a little louder. I want to thank Carrie and Julie for giving me this opportunity tonight to speak with you about illustrative math. As stated before, my name is Tim Phelps, and I'm the math department head at Breed Middle School. Over the past few months, we at Breed have been really excited to have tried out the resources that were up for consideration. We started with a small book study during our department meeting and evolved into piloting several lessons from illustrative and the other resources. We have found that illustrative math is highly engaging. Lessons are student-centered with the teacher as the facilitator. Lessons provide hands-on activities designed for student investigation, rigorous thought, and depth of knowledge. Illustrative provides materials with low entrance and high ceiling for all students. On the administrative level, we appreciate the common routines and best practices that Illustrative provides, as well as the varying tasks and creativity of each lesson. Our classrooms felt more engaging, productive, and exciting. Some of the comments from our teachers, Illustrative invited creativity and engagement throughout the lesson. Illustrative encouraged discourse and justification of reasoning. And our principal, Julie Loof, said, students enjoy being active participants in the learning process. During my observations of illustrative math, I saw students truly engaged in the content, which was rigorous, meaningful, and relevant, which are truly the necessary components of engagement. I'm really excited as a math teacher, the department head at Breed, and also a parent of 2 Lynn Public Schools children, to have illustrative in our classrooms. I understand it is an important decision this is, and look forward to see the growth and development of our math students throughout the city. Thank you.
In my 3rd grade class, I piloted lessons on measuring length in inches and creating line plots. Illustrative math's approach to this concept was very different, but I dove in fully and the results were well worth it. My students began with a basic ruler with only whole number inches labeled, and were asked to find objects in the room that were a whole number of inches long. As they explored and measured, conversations began such as, "This is hard. I can't find anything that lands directly on a whole number. What if it lands in the middle of 2 numbers? If it's in the middle, that would be half." These conversations were natural and began with the students. We came back together as a whole class and discussed their conversations and theories about objects that landed in the middle of 2 whole numbers. Students were then given an expo marker and drew half-inch lines directly onto their rulers. They then continued around the room exploring and finding lengths of objects to the nearest half-inch. The next day, this lesson continued with discussions about what happens if an object doesn't land directly on a whole or half-inch. Students were able to tell me that this measurement would then be a fourth, and we added 1/4 and 3/4 directly onto our rulers from the previous day. Students used their self-built rulers to measure more objects around the room to the nearest 1/4 inch. These lessons did more than just teach my students how to measure on a ruler. They supported my students in understanding the part-whole relationship, which is a big idea that they will repeatedly see throughout their middle and high school math years. The excitement, enthusiasm, and engagement throughout these 2 lessons was amazing to watch. But what I found to be an even bigger takeaway was the ownership students had in these rulers. And that was because they had built the rulers themselves. They knew exactly what each line stood for because they were the ones who drew them in. To this day, my students continue to ask if we can use the rulers to measure more objects. And so I know that these lessons will have meaning with my students for a long time to come. I'm excited about the opportunity that illustrative math gives me to look at my math instruction in a different way. A way that allows my students to engage with the math in hands-on discovery lessons in which they will have the chance to own their math thinking and learning. With illustrative math, students and teachers have the opportunity to participate in rich discussions and exploration activities that present the math content in a way that will be meaningful for all learners.
So, as we've been talking about the 4 phases, I'm just going to very briefly bring you back to the last 2 phases of our process, which is launch, implement, and monitor. So, with your approval, we plan to implement a comprehensive professional development plan this summer and fall, and launch the Illustrative Mathematics curriculum in September. Over the next 2 to 3 years, we'll continue to support educators in the implementation and gather educator feedback for continuous improvement. In closing, we hope you have a solid understanding of our process and final recommendation. As a department, we believe that illustrative math will provide our students with equitable, rigorous math learning experiences that they deserve and need, while also helping them with the 21st century skills necessary to thrive in the world. Thank you again to all of our educators that served many hours doing this work with us. We really appreciated their commitment and dedication, and it was a big commitment.
It was.
We'll take any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, Member Capola?
Okay.
One of my questions was the professional development that you're going to have. So it's over the summer, and is that a mandatory or voluntary?
We're setting up a comprehensive plan, part of which will be school-based. We're working with principals in some of their articulated time in retreat, so that we'll be supporting them there. And then we're going to, once approved, create the remaining part before we launch the school year and then through the school year, so that it's multiple opportunities.
Okay, and you mentioned that it'd be ready to go in September. Will the, whatever we need be in place by then?
As far as on the platform and the materials, yes.
It will be, okay.
Hopefully, yes.
And you probably don't know, but the cost, for that, and just the last time we changed math curriculum.
This would have been our 10th year with Go Math, so it was 10 years ago.
Okay.
And we have applied for a DESI grant and it's been accepted. Department of Elementary and Secondary Education will be
Okay.
fully supporting this.
Great. I think that's all my questions on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Dugan.
All right, well, thank you for your presentation. It was very thorough. I guess my questions are, more geared toward the elementary teachers. How much digital delivery would there be in the classrooms? Because I noticed on the video there's computers involved and the slides were mentioned. So is that, I guess what I'm envisioning is a teacher presenting the slides, or is that something, presented to the students for their Chromebooks or?
Yeah, I would definitely think it's a blended opportunity. I
Okay.
think it's really teacher autonomy is important, and I think that especially in the earlier grades, the students will be engaged with the hands-on materials. There'll be utilization of the platform, but they'll also be working with the manipulatives. They'll be working in centers. The centers will have kits. It'll be very hands-on. And just to reiterate, I think for the youngest learners, that is really important. And I think the investigative approach is, sort of we're working with the teachers to ensure that they have that ability to be flexible.
Okay. So then it mentioned small group instruction. Would that be sort of based on classrooms, or is that just built into the?
It's built in. The student centers are built in as
Okay.
part of the overall design of the
Okay.
program.
All right, great, thank you.
Go ahead, Member Gately.
Well, it's okay. First of all, I'm going to take this off a minute. I am so impressed that, I'm really happy that you went out and got, as I'm looking at the committee members, I'm looking at teachers that are represented from almost every, I think it's every school, but,
We tried, not quite, but
every
we
school
tried,
in our
yeah.
district. And as you know, we have a lot of teachers sitting here, so that must have been a lot of pressure when they started walking in, and they were like a little loud, but that's okay. I'm sure they've been interrupted in their, presentations in the past. So I want to know about languages. Like a lot of the new curriculum that is coming in, you can translate it into any language we need it to be translated to. And what I was really impressed with in the civics curriculum was the fact that dyslexic children could, I don't know what they do in a program to change it so that a dyslexic can inverse the letters and learn what they have to learn. And is that in this program, do you know?
I'm not sure about the dyslexia. They do have adaptations on demand, but they also have it fully translated into at least Spanish. Everything about the program is fully translated. Student, teacher, all the materials, everything is translated. And we'll work with them and the students with disabilities to ensure that whatever access needs to be accomplished, that we accomplish it. It's a brand-new published program that is designed by teachers with Bill McCallum, who was the developer of the Common Core standards, leading the way. So I'm sure that they'll work with us for whatever needs we have.
And I absolutely love the third grade lesson about the ruler because
Me too.
flashback to a couple of, maybe 3 years ago when I was teaching Intro to Engineering Design. And when you're doing a CAD drawing, you have to know, like certain measurements and in English and in science. But science is usually centimeters, millimeters, meters. But In English, it goes all the way to the 32nd. And this would be such a visual for those students that were interested in going into any kind of engineering. I think that they could carry that, because once a child sees it and understands it, it sounds like they fully understood it. And I think every educator in this room would love to have a child actually understand the use of a ruler, the measurements of a ruler, and so forth and so on. But I really liked it. I'd like to make a motion. Oh, sorry.
So, Member Pena, and then I have a question, and I would be happy to entertain a motion. Go ahead, Member Pena.
Thank you. So I think two of my questions were answered. So you're going to implement something for the special ed department, right? The curriculum? And it is bilingual?
Yes.
Correct, okay. I appreciate the presentation, thank you. And I enjoyed the lesson with the third grade, how the students were engaging, and that's very empowering to a student. I really enjoyed that, thank you. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my question is about the differentiation. I've heard from a couple teachers that one of the kind of downsides to the iReady is when students are progressing quickly, it's hard to reset iReady so that they can have more challenging. So I'm wondering about the teacher interactions with this. If you've got, say, a super advanced student, like how much does AI differentiate the instruction within the platform itself, and how much of that is teacher motivated? Can you talk a little bit about that within the software part of it, at least?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
You said iReady, so are we talking, because we do have iReady for our pathways. for
Yes.
Personalized instruction for students from our assessment. That's one of our assessment platforms.
Yeah, so one of those, so I don't know if you've heard this from teachers, but sometimes what happens if you have a student who's mastered a bunch of things, but the rest of the class hasn't, is that the teacher has to manually reset that student's iReady levels in order for them to get more challenging work, right? So my question about the version of differentiation is, does it work like iReady does? So if the whole class is doing rulers and one of your students like just snap, got it, right? So it's not so interesting to that student anymore to do rulers, they're ready to do the next thing. Is that teacher driven, or is there an algorithmic way to do that, is I guess my question.
I'm going to let you speak to the differentiation.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to.
Yeah.
So, first of all, the platform itself and the lesson design is differentiated because, as Tim mentioned, it's a low floor, so it's an access point where I present a problem, everybody can speak to it.
Yeah.
And then throughout the lesson, there's an opportunity for all the voices in the room to be heard and share their thinking, which is wherever they are, they enter into the conversation. And so then within the program, the teacher will be facilitating the knowledge of the students in the room to a synthesis, but also there's opportunities within the program for sort of extension type problems. And also there's questions that are prompted or that are suggested to the teacher so that the teacher can ask a student to go deeper or stick with sort of the grade level expectation. Everything is grade level and standards based so that all students are working on grade level standards, but there are opportunities to go deeper within a concept.
Excellent,
Embedded.
okay. That's what I was getting at, because we talk about the floor, but sometimes there's also a ceiling.
Yes.
Yeah, and some students don't like the ceilings. So we want to make sure that we differentiate, not just for the students in special ed, but for those students who are reaching to feel that engagement, because that's really the beauty of a dynamic program, is that you can engage all learners wherever they're accessing it. Absolutely. I think Member Gately had a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. It was informative, and I hope everybody in the room is looking forward to this new program. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the Illustrative Mathematics Learn for Life curriculum and move it to the full committee.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Member Magnolia?
Yes?
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
This concludes the meeting of the Curriculum Subcommittee. Oh, you're supposed to.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Call the Personnel Subcommittee to order. Roll call, please.
Member Capola?
Present.
Member Gately?
Present.
Member Magnolia?
Present.
Okay, and on the agenda is an item that was tabled previously, a human resource generalist recruitment specialist. And there is, yep. First of all, I just want to know if everybody got the new posting. Okay, yes. Ms. Gately?
I would like to just move this out of the subcommittee and take it off the table and move it up to the full committee for discussion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Opportunity for citizens to express their views on matters of concern of the school committee. The sessions are not designed to encourage debate or lengthy exchange of views, but are to have the committee understand numerous points of view. The committee would appreciate speakers keeping their presentation to 3 minutes in order to accommodate as many people as time permits. The chair reserves the right to limit the number of speakers on the same topic to 3. All speakers must be at least 18 years of age or enrolled in high school in the Lynn Public Schools District and having discussed their views with a student government representative. The chair reserves the right to rule the speaker out of order if he feels that the speaker's comments are personal in nature, if a speaker's comments are directed at a school committee member or a member of school administration in attendance, that member, through the chair, may address the individual. The sessions will promptly commence 15 minutes prior to the start of the regular school committee meeting. We do have a sign-in sheet, and the first name is Alyssa Smiley.
Hello, good evening. My name is Alyssa Smiley, and I have worked at Classical High School for over a decade. I started out as the peer mediation coordinator, and since 2014, I have been a classroom teacher. When I first made the transition to the classroom, it was as a member of both the science and ESL department, as we were just about to adopt the SEI content model of teaching our English learners. As a brand new teacher, I remember feeling overwhelmed, as many of us have. The idea of teaching 20-plus Level 1 ELs science in their newest language was intimidating. National recommendations we were taught in retail said that these classes should be no more than 18. But in the end, it was rewarding and helped me start my career with an important skill set and inspire my continued advocacy for my students. Since then, I typically teach at least one SEI science course and have seen that 20-plus roster steadily increase each year. Despite our district's emphasis on helping teachers build their capacity for SEI instruction and our equity work in general, several colleagues and I have found ourselves teaching classes of over 30 early proficiency ELs. This year, when this population quickly outpaced our growth and planning expectations, sections of one of my planned courses were collapsed and handed off, with one EL biology traded to me and another one made from scratch. That morning, it had 0 students. By class time, 5. Within 2 weeks, 20, and now we've been sitting above 35 since early January. As of the last 2 weeks, my largest class has 40 early proficiency ELs. This is unsustainable even for our most enthusiastic and experienced educators. The size alone is not the only challenge. The transient nature of our population, student number 40 is just starting school and needs the attention and support required to fully onboard to our blended learning model. But we also have the pressure of accelerating learning, especially with our subject area MCAS right around the corner. And we need to build and nurture relationships with all of our students while also giving them timely, actionable feedback to encourage a growth mindset and assist in their new language acquisition using appropriate scaffold and language objectives. 7 years ago, this felt like a daunting task with 20-plus English learners in my classroom. And today, standing in front of me, 40 students is feeling much the same. To address this growing issue, our principal asked for, and the district provided, the resources to hire a co-teacher for our English learner biology classes. Another content-specific teacher to help with the high caseload. The co-teaching model shows promise, but mid-year implementation does not do its potential justice. Our science classrooms are the most accommodating learning spaces in the building, but with 35-plus students in a post-COVID world, it feels like we are on top of each other and easily encourages getting off task being in such proximity. We have the resources to deal with and survive this emergency, but our students need the opportunity to access their education without merely surviving. Capping our high-need classes like ESL and SEI classes, as well as special education, shows our students and families that we know what is important: their education, their emotional and mental well-being, their sense of progress and accomplishment, and that of their teachers too. We must have caps on these class sizes, or we will continue to see passionate and capable teachers take their talents elsewhere. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Next is Dave Poland.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Good day,
How are you today, Dave?
I know a lot of folks here. It's nice to see you all again. Nice to meet the new ones. I don't want to go over what Alyssa just said. I am a social studies teacher at Classical. I am the 9th grade PLC lead. I have 18 years' experience in Lynn. The sum total of the people I work with, the teachers I work with, is 4 teachers with 5 years' experience, so they're all new. We all have newcomer classrooms. You know, I added one on in November because the caseload was so high for my fellow teachers. I now have 38 students in the conference room because that's the only room they can fit, which is, I wasn't even allowed to go in the conference room for the first 10 years of my life for the student study team, and now it's a classroom. So it's quite overcrowded. I think the administration Classical has done what they can do. The building is just at its limit. So these new teachers that I work with, 3 first year and 1 second year, they all have a couple newcomer classrooms, multilingual students. And besides doing their mentoring, you know, their induction program and all that, and some of them finishing their education, they're teaching these classes, which are just quite a challenge. They have, they're really, in some ways, they're the best students in the school because they are so motivated. They work so hard. My 40 kids, I had 38 show up my last class last Thursday, and it's like that all the time. The attendance is excellent. These folks want to learn, and I think I'm doing them injustice just because I can't give them the attention they need, just because there's so many of them. And they want attention. They want to check their answers constantly. You want to give them as much feedback as you can. I think it's almost like being, in some ways, not on a maturity level, but on a learning level, like being an elementary teacher with just a gargantuan classroom. And my fellow teachers in my US 1 PLC, like I said, because they have so many other things going on, I've done this for a long time. I can teach US 1 out of the top of my head, but teaching newcomers, teaching them English, getting them ready for MCAS as quickly as possible, and supporting them emotionally is quite another thing. So I just hope we can look at to the class size, not just for the teachers, but for the students, and just to move Lynn ahead. And thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sheila O'Neill.
Hi. Good evening. I'm Sheila O'Neill, Lynn Teachers Union President and resident of Lynn. Over the past few years, we have built what we felt were truly collaborative relationships with the school committee, the superintendent, the administration, and the mayor. Educators feel as though they are not being heard right now. That is why we needed to bring more voices and why we will continue to do so. LTU educators have been through hell during the past 2 years, but still they have persisted, and our students continue to grow in their learning. Throughout the process of bargaining these contracts, our educators have had countless conversations with colleagues, parents, students, and other community members. Overfilled classrooms, overwhelmed therapist caseloads are some of the universal concerns. LTU members are committed to teaching and supporting every student who walks through the doors of our schools, no matter where they come from, no matter when they show up. Oversized classes and caseloads may be a reality sometimes, but they should be a last resort, and they should occur much less frequently than they do now. With the additional funding coming into the district in the next few years, money which would not have been secured without years of work by educators and our unions, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to put a dent in the fundamental problems which have plagued our district for years. We must have equity for our students and our educators with resolutions to the conflicts regarding our contract negotiations. We need a fair contract now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sabrina Marco.
Hello, I'm Sabrina Markham. I'm the 7th grade interventionist at Breed Middle School, and I just wanted to highlight some of the benefits that class caps will have for us. According to research collected and reviewed by the National Council of Teachers of English, there are several benefits to students that attend schools with smaller class sizes. Putting a cap on the number of students per class will help the District of Lynn in many ways. The first way it will help is with academic performance. The research shows that students in smaller classes perform better in all subjects and on all assessments when compared with peers in larger classes. Secondly, student engagement goes up when class sizes go down. Research consistently shows students talk more and participate more in smaller classes, and students will be more likely to interact with peers and teachers. Students in smaller classes report having better relationships with both their teachers and their peers, and will evaluate both the class and their teacher more positively. With the district pushing to create more student engagement and to have more social emotional learning centered lessons in classrooms, this cap is vital for teachers to be able to achieve this. Long-term success for students of smaller class sizes can also be proven with research. In fact, researchers have found that reducing class size can influence socioeconomic factors such as earning potential, improved citizenship, decreased crime, and welfare dependence. This benefits the underrepresented and disadvantaged populations the most. The increased probability of attending college for all students is at 2.7%. It is 5.4% for African American students and 7.3% for the students in the poorest third of the United States schools. Finally, having smaller classes will allow for more equity in the classroom and has the possibility to close the achievement gap. One Princeton study showed that the likelihood that African American students will take the ACT or SAT rises from 31.8% to 41.3% with smaller class sizes, while white students go from 46.4%, to 44.7%. The study concludes that the benefits for students of color extend beyond academic achievement, such as improved math and reading test scores, to broader social criteria. One example showed African American teenage males who attended small classes were 40% less likely to become fathers at a young age compared to their peers in regular sized classrooms. Yet, while these minority students and students from lower socioeconomic levels will reap the most benefit from lowering class sizes, they are the least likely to get it. Our work with the equity imperative this year has shown me that this small change could help start to break down the system of oppression that our students are currently facing. So remember this when you turn down class caps. It is the school committee telling teachers, telling students, and telling families that the bottom line is more important than the student's academic performance. The bottom line is more important than the relationships between students and teachers. The bottom line is more important than a student's social and emotional well-being. The bottom line is more important than the long-term successes of our students. And the bottom line is more important than getting the most underdeserved population the most benefit. I will leave you with just one question to think about before I leave. How can we, as a community, start to dismantle the system of oppression that has been holding our children back for so long if the school committee is so fervently protecting its foundation? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Colleen O'Connell.
Hi. Good evening, members of the school committee. My name is Colleen O'Connell, and I am a speech and language pathologist with the Lynn Public Schools for going on 10 years. I am speaking on behalf of the therapist as well as our speech and language pathologist, who are a part of the teachers union, regarding the importance of a caseload cap. Historically, the speech and language pathologists have had the highest direct treatment caseloads of all related service providers within LPS. For perspective, in 2018, the American Speech and Hearing Association, our national governing, has surveyed thousands of school-based licensed SLPs across the nation and reported a median caseload size of 48 students. In LPS, our average caseload size is 70 to 80 students. Some of us has had and currently have over 100 students and travel between 3 schools. Additionally, some of us are serving students in grades pre-K all through 12th in one caseload. This was wrong and unethical in the past and is wrong and unethical now. High caseloads make it very difficult to give individual students and families the attention they need and deserve. The efficiency and quality of our services is compromised by high demands on documentation, evaluations, meetings, preparation, consultation, and direct treatment time. Our students must be grouped together based on how they fit into our schedules rather than based on their needs and complexities. This is not fair to our students or to us as employees who strive for and want the best for our students. As a department, we have no choice but to accept unrealistic assignments without the protection of having a caseload cap in our contract. For this 2021 to 2022 school year, certain schools have no speech and language pathologist coverage, and some students have been put on wait lists due to the sheer high volume of students. High demands cause frequent scheduling conflicts to accommodate evaluations and meetings that present us with ethical dilemmas on a daily basis. Additionally, our caseload sizes play a significant role in our ability to hire and retain staff. For this school year, Dr. Tutwiler approved a total of 28 licensed speech and language pathologist positions. However, we were left with many vacancies unable to be filled. We, as a department, feel strongly that our reputation for having some of the largest caseloads in the greater Boston area deters applicants. If passed, we would be the only district north of Boston to have a caseload cap. This would be enticing to new graduates and experienced speech and language pathologists alike. By providing our department with a caseload cap, you will be helping to ensure high-quality services and progress for our students. Our students need this change.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Barbara Jones.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Jones, and I'm an algebra teacher at Lynn English, and we are overcrowded. This is my 3rd year here, and I don't have my own classroom. I have a cart that I push from room to room in between classes, along with the 2,000 plus students and the other teachers that are moving to a different classroom for that period. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I travel between floors. And if you've been to English, you know we have one antiquated elevator to service all the traveling teachers, plus any disabled staff and students. I am never on time for the classes that I have to change floors for. I teach class sizes with 30, 38, 143 students for English speakers. Our contract says the district will continue to work towards class size maximums of 25 for K through 12. I also teach 2 transition classes, which are for the students just starting to learn English. These, by the contract, are supposed to have or try to have a maximum of 18 students. But mine have 29 and 30. Actually, it's now 30 and 30 because I got a new one today. I also have a study hall with 37 students. So to do the math, I am directly teaching 180 students and responsible for 37 during study hall for a total of 217 students per week. Algebra is a difficult subject for many, and with 40+ students in one class, even with the SPED teacher in the class, it's very difficult to have time to work with the students who are on IEPs and 504s, let alone the others. Many of our students have trouble functioning in a chaotic environment, but when you put 40 or more 14 and 15-year-olds in one classroom that's not big enough, but it's the biggest available that period, that's what you have. No amount of classroom management allows me to spend the necessary time with each student. As a teacher, I have been taught to get to know my students and make a personal connection with each and every one of them, something that really puts the joy into teaching. This year, I'm still struggling with putting the right last name to some of my 180 students, not including the 37 whose names in my study hall I don't know. Students are not getting the education they need, and they are not closing learning gaps from the pandemic. We're essentially warehousing our students, not educating them. We are perpetuating and widening the inequities and learning gaps that our students are already struggling to close. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the folks that are signed up. Anyone else wishing to speak at open mic? Anyone wishing to speak at open mic? Please just state your name and address.
Sorry, you said name and what?
Address.
I'm a Lynn teacher. Does that change?
You can.
I live at 29 West Wyoming in Melrose, Massachusetts, and my name's Caitlin Gibson. I don't know if you know what SLIFE means, but it's students with limited or interrupted formal education. When they come to Lynn, we ask if you have gone to school regularly, and they say no. I get them. I teach them pre-algebra. At the same time that they learn algebra, mind you. I have 32 students who have not gone to school regularly. I'm expected, while teaching them, to help get them acclimated to the American school system. Our computers, that was a big problem last year. Personal laptops for the first time. 32! I get new ones about twice a week. Surprise. Go ahead, teach them pre-algebra. Also, acclimate them to the school system. Also, remember their name and learn about them. I don't know how. I'm trying. It's my second year as a teacher. What is keeping me in Lynn? I don't live in Lynn, as you all know. I live in Melrose. Why am I teaching in Lynn? There's no contract caps for caseloads. Our salaries are not matching other districts. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at open mic?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gary Torres. I'm a parent liaison over at Lynn English, also known as a paraprofessional out of the Lynn Teachers Union. And I'm speaking for fair and equitable wages because it's not fair or equitable as a parent, as a paraprofessional, let alone. I have a lot of family here in Lynn. I grew up in Lynn. I graduated from Lynn Public Schools, Lynn Tech 2015, and I did early education and care. I have the experience and knowledge and very well liked with staff and friends or colleagues here in Lynn. And I really don't want to leave Lynn, but it's really taken me to that point to leave the district. So just because of wages and just because of just wages in general and just not being able to really fulfill my financial needs that I have to do. I am a guardian of my little brother and middle brother. Kevin, he's 23. I'm 25. My middle brother's 23, and my little brother just turned 18. And it's been a struggle. I just don't know what else to say, but I just wanted to represent the paraprofessionals. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at open mic? Please, yeah.
Hey, Jeff Bigler, physics teacher at Lynn English. I'm not going to repeat things that other people have already said, but I do want to also mention some of the safety aspects, especially for science teachers. The National Science Teachers Association, NSTA, has guidelines for safe supervision in lab-based science classes. And these came from studies of lab accidents and injury rates. And the two factors that made the biggest difference were supervision and crowding. So NSTA guidelines say that in any lab science class, there should be a maximum of 24 students per adult for supervision purposes, and that in a mixed classroom laboratory space, which would be all of the science rooms at English, a minimum of 60 square feet of floor area per student. To give you a sense of how much space that is, if you count ceiling tiles, the rectangles are 2 feet by 4 feet. This room is 34 by 36 feet. This room, if it were a science classroom, would be large enough for 20 students doing labs, etc. My classroom is smaller than this. I have 33. I have an average of 30 square feet per student. And I do my best to keep the kids safe, of course. I haven't had any major issues, but I worry that it's a matter of time before something unfortunate happens. And if something happens and I'm unable to supervise, or just because of the crowding, then that would be tragic. I would feel terrible. And any other teacher in that situation, if a kid gets hurt on your watch, that's every teacher's worst nightmare. And we really need, we need class size caps, not just for effectiveness, but it's also a safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Brianna Goulet. I teach math at Lynn English High School. Was not planning on speaking today, but after hearing most of my colleagues speak, I just felt the need to speak. Being an alumna of the Lynn Public Schools and having face-to-face with majority of my former teachers here, one being on the school committee, all of you guys were real inspirations to my education. And so being a teacher now and reflecting on my childhood and my experience in the Lynn Public Schools, it's very different. And I graduated in 2014, and it's changed dramatically. And all I really just want to say is I just would want what I had back, however, so many years ago. What I had is I want that same kind of equity for our students today because they deserve it probably a lot more than I did. So, thank you.
Thank you. Please go ahead, just name and address. Yep.
Hi, my name is Michael Lopez. My address is 294 Wentworth Avenue, Lowell, Massachusetts. I am the drama teacher at Lynn English High School. We've got shows on Friday and Saturday at 7:30 if anybody wants to come and see. I have no idea what we're doing here. I don't know what we're doing here. I can't figure it out. Everybody in this room right now, we're intelligent people. You guys didn't need people to come here and explain to you the benefit of caps on class sizes and what it means to pay your teachers what they're worth. I have been a teacher for more than 20 years. I can't go anywhere else. A, I'm too old. Nobody wants to hire a 56-year-old theater teacher. Two, theater teacher jobs are like unicorns. You know, the people in those positions, they leave them when they retire or when they die. And so unlike an English teacher or a science teacher or something like that where there are lots of options, I can't go anywhere else. When I took this job to move from a wealthy district to a district where I felt like I could make a difference, I took a $10,000 pay cut to do it. I took a $5,000 pay cut in the stipend to run the drama club to do that. And I've been doing it year after year. I put in an average of about 800 hours a year doing that drama club. It's baffling to me. It's baffling to me why we're even talking about this. But thank you for listening.
Thank you. Please go ahead. State your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Magali Rowe. I am Spanish teacher in Breed Middle School. I'm here to talk about my program I have with my Spanish Honor Society kids every Tuesday after school with the English learners. Kids who they feel behind because the size of the classrooms. And also I teach a Lynn community enrichment program every evening in Lynn Tech. And last session in winter, and this session, I have students, they went to classical, junior and senior, and they are taking ESL with me, basic ESL, because they say they couldn't receive the good education in classical or in English because the size of the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at open mic? Anyone wishing to speak at open mic? Yep. Go ahead. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Zara Kemes. I'm a paraprofessional at Classical High School. I love working in Lynn. I love the people. I used to work in River High and I moved to Lynn. We come back for the kids and everybody. I do my full-time hours. I start tutoring and I start picking up extra hours because I cannot afford. I'm a widow. We cannot afford to survive. Our income is really low. And being in the classroom, I don't want to think about how I'm going to pay my rent. Did I put gas for my daughter in the car? You know, I start asking my boss and begging her if she has extra hours, if I can. I start emailing people if they need help. I pick up extra hours at the different school, staying with the kids, in order for me to afford my kids, my family. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at open mic? Please go ahead. Yep.
Hi, I'm Kelly Benito. I live here in Lynn. I've been a Lynn resident all my life, my 50-plus years. I love this school. My two kids went to this school, English high school, loved every bit of it. Now, my youngest is now subbing at Lynn English. Just maybe 9 years ago, he might have graduated, and he says, what a change. I says, totally different, right? He goes, totally different. He goes, the things that are going on there, we could never get away with, and that's because the structure is not there. And I'm just saying in English, I'm just saying in general in education, when I'm talking to different educators throughout the state, I'm talking to different people, and we're hearing this all the time. We know that the kids went through a pandemic, but all of us here experienced that pandemic. My kids were grown. Wasn't as hard for me as it was for them, but I do have 3 grandkids that do and have depended on me during that pandemic time. If you love us, if you love our students, if you love our community, then do what's right for all of us. Not just what you think is right, but do what's right for all of us, because we're all part of the community. You say we are, treat us like we are. We want the love, we want the respect, and we do want the pay. I've been doing it for over 25 years, and the money I make doing this for over 25 years, I was in the private sector, probably making 6 figures by now. Why would I want to stay there? Because I love my job. I love my students. I love my children. I love what my educators did prior before me with my kids. Lorraine had one of my kids. There's probably a few others that had my kids. And I totally respect everything that they did with my children. And I'm just asking you guys to do the same thing for us. Show us some respect. Give us some pay raise. Let's not fight about this anymore. We just need to end this today. And it's only going to end if you allow us to be part of the community and make community decisions. It just can't be about what you think. We're a community. Let's act like one. Let's do the right thing. Let's do the right thing for our children, do the right thing for my grandkids that are coming through this school. I don't know what else to say, but I'm just saying that. That's
it. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Hi. My name's Jenny McGarry. I'm an English teacher at Lynn English High School. I love teaching. I really love it. I am like a teacher, you know? And we have this new group at our school, which is trying to create like a pipeline between our school and students to become teachers in Lynn. And I would not suggest a single one of my students to join that group. I want to be able to tell my students that teaching in Lynn is a beautiful career because I've seen the beauty in the career. But if I'm being honest with you all today, I would be doing them a disservice by telling them to come to teach in Lynn Public Schools. We don't feel supported by this committee. We are severely underpaid. Our caseloads are way too high. Our classes are way too high. We have buildings that are crumbling. We just simply don't have what we need. And in order for me to tell my students that they should become teachers in Lynn, we need more from you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak for open mic? Go ahead. Yeah, hi.
I apologize. I feel like I'm going to puke everywhere because I didn't intend to speak today. My name is Elizabeth Jesus D'Amico. I am an English teacher at Lynn English High School. I'm a graduate of Lynn English High School class of 2000. I'm a Lynn kid, and I'm damn proud of being a Lynn kid. And when I decided to become a teacher much later than some of my colleagues, there was nowhere else for me. It was Lynn. And that's because I take great pride in being from here. I wanted to give back to the community that raised me. And I have to say, I'm disappointed in some of the things that I see. And walking through the corridors when I was a senior at Lynn English, as many have said, is not the same as walking through the corridors now. And that's okay, change is good. What is not okay is that my inclusion class of 33 kids, I can't work small group with those kids. I can differentiate. Can I differentiate as an educator? Absolutely. Can I scaffold like the best of them? Absolutely. Do I spend hours before the school day begins to prepare that? Absolutely. Do I stay till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on Fridays helping kids who are in my 11th grade class pass their sophomore year on Edgenuity? Absolutely. What I offer my students as a 10-year teacher in this district is a high level of education. That's what I want to offer my kids. Class sizes don't always allow that to happen. The PDs that I have taken, some have been unbelievable, some are lacking in some regards. But we all know that's the truth. So, the reason why I'm standing up here right now is because I get paid $19,000 less here at Lynn Educator than Everett. If I were to go to Everett High School, I get paid $19,000 more as a 10-year teacher, master's plus 15. In addition to that, eu posso falar aqui português contigo. I can sit up here and speak Portuguese with you. I can sit up here and speak Spanish. Offering that to my students who are in my cohort classes, in my 10th grade cohort classes, to my L's that I sometimes have to take skills and translate for them in their native language so they can understand and prove to me that they understand in their native language, skills-based teaching, standards. I can see, they can show me in their native language. And I want to leave. And I want to leave because I don't feel respected as a 10-year teacher that the product that I can offer to our students, the effective instruction that I can offer, that's not being respected. You're going to replace me with a brand new teacher who cannot do what I do because I have built this. And I'm telling you, I'm shaking as I say that because, there's a lot of people that I respect highly that are sitting in front of me right now. And Dr. Tutwiler, I highly respect you. And I've loved listening to you over the past several years. There are many of you that I'm shaking as I stand up here because I don't want to leave. I don't want to go be a teacher in Everett when I'm a Lynn kid. I don't want to go teach other kids because, again, I want to teach the community that raised me. I want to see those kids go to college. I'm ESL. I'm English. Portuguese was my first language. So I'm first generation, so seeing these kids who are exactly like me, I want to give them the tools that they need so they can go be the first. I'm the youngest of 4. And my high school graduation was the first one that my mother ever attended. And so, needless to say, I was the first to go to college in my family, my large Portuguese family of 45. And then, not in, like that, like, please. My parents would have been very busy, but I was the first one. There you go. Lynn kids doing good things.
14th kid in the family, the first one to go to college.
And I specifically chose Lynn to come back to. I don't want to leave. Please don't make it so I want to leave. Please respect me and what I can offer these kids. I have an interview in Everett, and I have people who want me there. I don't want to leave. I am the 504 coordinator at Lynn English High School. I'm a volleyball coach. I am the class of 2023 class advisor. I'm a mentee. I have 2 mentees that I have this year. I have to do all of those things to get to the base of what Everett would get me without having to do all of those things. All of it. I want to say, I am not complaining about the work on the weekends that I put in, or when I'm here at 6:30, 7 o'clock every morning and staying late. I'm not complaining about those things because I know what I'm able to offer my students as a result of all that work. What I am upset about is that I have to do all of that and not feel respected for doing all of that. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at open mic? Go ahead, yeah, just state your name and address. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dominic Copeland, 38 Hathaway, Beverly, Massachusetts. Thank you for taking the time to hear me out. So I'm newer to the Lynn Public Schools teaching. I started back in November 30th of the past year. And I had taught before, but I went to business. So I was coming out of international business. I've also been where you were. I was the first person of color. First Black American to be a city councilor in the city of Lynn, city of Beverly. So after I wrapped that up and had hip surgery last year that went kind of bad as far as the recovery, and then in August of last year was in the hospital for over a week. I almost died from COVID as a breakthrough case, one of the first. So they had me on TV and so forth. In regards to that, we just did a follow-up not too long ago. So coming out of all that, I wanted to do something that was worthwhile. I've been in international business, good money there, but I wanted to do something to make a difference. And because of the pandemic and everything that happened with George Floyd, I wanted to be for my people. I wanted to make a difference with specifically Black Americans. So I chose to go to Lynn Public Schools where I could do that, hopefully. Got there the first day. Before I got there, they told me I'd be working in a classroom of, mostly just regular learning students, and I have a few that were learners that I have to tailor the curriculum to. I said, no problem. I've taught different levels. I taught kids that were adjudicated, going through the court system, some that were former gang members. I've taught in more prestigious schools as well. So I said, no problem. Walked in the classroom the first day. They dropped me in. I say hello to everybody, and they just stare at me and look at me like they don't know what I'm saying. And then I found out that I was the only one in the classroom that spoke English. Everyone else was a learner who spoke Spanish at that point. So I've been in international business, so I worked with different languages and cultures, so I figured out a way, I knew how to figure out ways where we could communicate. So that's what I wanted to, kind of crisis mode and triage. Understanding those situations, you need to do what needs to be done. So that's what I did for the classroom. Now we're to the point where I have, and most of my classes over 30 students. And in many of the classes now I have diverse languages. So one of my classes I had today, my C block, we have Spanish, we have Portuguese, we have a student from Afghanistan who speaks Pashto, another one from Afghanistan who speaks Persian. So it's 4 different languages, none of which I know, and they don't know English. So again, we just have to find ways to communicate and work together. And I just told all my students, I said, look, I don't know your language, you don't know mine, so we're all new to this. We're in the ocean together, and all we can do is just hold on tight and keep swimming. Keep swimming in the same direction. I was like, you don't quit, I won't quit. I was like, I can promise you this. I was like, there's people that pay me to teach their kids. I've done many things. Wherever you want to go to or get to, I will get you there. We just have to work together. We just have to be patient. We have to keep caring about each other in order to get there. At the same time, it's a daunting task because I walk into the classroom each day knowing I'm not reaching the standard that I want to reach, and that every time I step into that classroom, I'm failing by my own standards, and I'm failing by the needs of each and every student that's there. But all I can do, just like on the battlefield, I can only save who I can save. I can only reach who I can reach. And after that, I have to keep going. And I have to forget about that and go on to the next one. Knowing that I can never be perfect, I can never do my best, I can never even hit the standards that we're supposed to hit each and every day. It's not possible, it's not feasible. But I look in these kids' eyes and I just say, just keep swimming. I was like, sometimes that's life. All we can do is just keep going, keep swimming. I was like, and I'll get you to wherever we can get to together. But having that many students, those many different languages, there's no way that I can give them what they need. So as a new teacher, if someone else was a new teacher, I don't think they could be able to go through that each and every day. To be able to just be dropped into a classroom and people who you don't even speak their language and they don't speak yours, and now you have to figure out and tailor a curriculum towards that. All of a sudden, you know, I thought I was doing something, and hey, I'm getting better with the Spanish, and then now you hit me with Portuguese. Okay.
I got you, Dominic.
There you go. And if it wasn't for my fellow educators, I would have been completely lost. You know, because they you know, held on to me, and we kept swimming together. But then I got the, you know, Portuguese and got them up and running, and then here comes the Pashto, and that's, you know, I just look him in the face. He's an amazing student, a wonderful kid. And I look him in the face and I said, I'm sorry. You know, I don't even know what I'm saying to you. You know, all I can do is Google Translate and all those other things. I have no idea. You know, your language is symbols. It goes backwards from what our language was. It's completely different. But he rises to the challenge every day and he fights to get better. And another student that speaks the Persian, he came in, he couldn't even write the letters. He can't even write English letters. And that's the point where we had to start at. So I'm starting with a student who can't even write the letters for our language. Another student can't understand the language, you know, as it's written. And other students who are just trying to, you know, navigate and figure out English. So I can't even teach them all through Spanish because they don't understand it. You know, that's what I was doing before, but it wasn't right to the other students who speak Portuguese and the ones who speak Pashto, who speak Persian. Because I'm not teaching them English, now they're learning Spanish. So I said, look, guys, I'm sorry. I was like, but, you know, this is life. This is where we're at. And together we're going to fight and we're going to be the best that we can. There's a standard and we're going to uphold to that standard no matter what it takes. I'm like, win, lose, or draw. I can't promise that we'll win, but I can promise that we'll never stop fighting. I can promise that wherever we get to, we'll be better than where you were. And I can promise that I do everything possible to make sure that you can achieve your American dream.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at open mic? Yeah, please, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Blas Mercedes. I teach Pickering Middle School, Spanish teacher. I used to teach Marshall Middle School for 17 years. I've been teaching since 1995. When I came to become a teacher here in Lynn, my background is in accounting. I just became a teacher because I want to make a difference to the city. When I came to teach here in Lynn, Lynn was the third district higher pay around here. Now, if you check the number, we're in the bottom, the third on the bottom. My question is how we get there. How do we come from the top, coming to the bottom? And if you told me that the number of students is less, then I probably say it's okay. But we have more students every single day. And it's sad, the teachers are here like begging to be paid. Do we have to beg for our job? It's ridiculous. I've been teaching for 27 years. And I have a lot of colleagues who moved to different districts. They told me, why do you stay in Lynn? Why did you come to Boston? Or go to the north? That you will be probably making $100,000-something a year. But I say, if I move from Lynn, I'm not going to be able to make the difference that I want to make in the city. We want to have a better city, but we don't want to invest in the city. It doesn't make sense. Plus, we have school who is falling apart. Have you never been in Pickering Middle School when it's raining? It's leaking. I feel sometimes that I was back in Dominican Republic in my grandparents' house when sometimes it was raining inside, it's stopping outside. And then we continue try to stay in the city because we want to make a difference. It's very sad, that we have to deal with this situation. It's like you guys don't care about the education of the student. 27 years, and I see the city is going falling apart every single year. every single year. I mean, I would like to know, I mean, why you guys, when everything is gonna stop? People making more money than another district, and then the teacher had to beg for a little bit of money. I would like to know what we would do if every single teacher who's have a lot of experience move to a different district. You think it's fair for the student to have like a new teacher coming in? I think you guys have to stop and thinking, what do we want for the city? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please go ahead. Name and address.
Betsy Ramos Pachuki, Spanish teacher at Lynn Classical High School, Boxford, Mass. I just want to say a little something because I don't think I've seen, on behalf of alumni of color, I have 17 years of teaching experience, 11 in Lynn. I switched to Lynn to come back, to give back to Lynn. And I know that as part of our equity, right, we're looking to hire more teachers of color. And I think I would love to be able to kind of hone in on that and tell students of color, right? But when on top of the classes and all that, in addition to that, you're also dealing with equity issues, right, within the classroom, that doesn't really want to, that doesn't really make me want to really share that with them and have them be part of this district. I'm proud of being from Lynn. I want to continue to give back to these kids, lift them up, especially students of color, right, because they're being disserviced in many ways. And so I just wanted to make sure to speak up for that population. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak for open mic, please go ahead. Name and address.
My name is Dimitri. I 10 Baldwin Street, Peabody, Massachusetts. I teach at Lynn English High School. This is my third year now. And what I'm hearing a lot from my fellow colleagues is that I'm seeing a lot of veteran teachers who are fed up with the pay not keeping up as they teach for longer. And me personally, this is my third year. I'm seeing a lot of new teachers not really knowing what to do in their first year, feeling frustrated, feeling like they're drowning. My first year was hell, and I'm still here because I love the job, but it took me 3 years just to feel like I'm doing okay. And my first year, I was the only new teacher. This year, there's 6, just in the English department. And if we lose teachers like Liz, like Jen, teachers who have been doing this for a long time, and we just keep replacing them with first-year teachers who need several years to figure out how to work with these students, how to work with English learners, we're going to end up doing a great disservice to our students, and you're going to feel the pain in the long run, and then you're going to be sitting at this table wondering, why didn't we do something sooner before we lost all the good teachers, all the veterans. So I just want to understand what the game plan is when we're here next year and the year after, and we've lost more and more and more teachers, and there's 20, 30 new teachers every year who are drowning, who don't know what to do, and they're feeling like they're failing, and their students are feeling like they're failing. So before we get to that point, I would love something to change, something to happen, because you will feel it in the long run, and Lynn will feel it in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at open mic? Please go ahead. Name and address.
I'm Sarah Campbell. I teach math at English, and I'm from Salem. Like Caitlin before me, I teach a lot of students who are classified as SLIFE students, students with limited interrupted formal education. I'm not sure you're aware fully what that means. Some of my students come into 9th grade and they don't know how to open a binder, like a 3-ring binder. I have to show them how how to open a binder, and how to use a paper clip. They pick up a paper clip and they don't know what to do with it. That's where they start with me. But I want to tell you about one in particular, because this is a student who inspires me to keep doing what I do. She came in to my class and she did not understand the concept of multiplication. She's in 9th grade. I had to explain what it is when we multiply. And she worked really hard, and she got there. And I still see her in the halls now. She's a senior. She's about to graduate. And I have never been more proud of how hard a student has worked and how much all of us have done to get her to where she is. But we can't do that when we have class sizes of 30-something or 40-something students. We could only do that with her because I had small classes when she was in my class. I don't know that I can say that my current students are going to have the same success. And I also want to tell you that I've been interviewing in other districts because I love my students and I love what I do, but I can't keep up with the numbers that I have and with the feeling that, with the absence of support that I feel. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at open mic? Anyone wishing to speak at open mic? Anyone wishing to speak at open mic? All right, we will close open mic. Thank you all so much for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, we're just gonna recess for a couple minutes before we open the meeting. Next item on the agenda are the minutes.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of 3 meetings, the first one being the Athletics Subcommittee meeting on April 28th, 2022, the Curriculum Subcommittee meeting on April 28th, 2022, and the 8th regular meeting on April 28th, 2022.
Second.
Roll call.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. Next item is discussion on proposed curriculum leadership positions.
Yeah, I'd like to invite Eva O'Malley, the Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, to the presentation table. There are several new positions proposed in the FY23 budget that are of a leadership sort of nature, and given that the last meeting, this meeting, and the next two are really focused on a deep dive on the budget, we wanted to formally talk through some of the things that are in there, and this is one of them.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. Hi, my name is Eva O'Malley, and I'm the Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction. I'd like to start by giving a bit of historical context to my request for these positions. During the early days of the Common Core standards, we saw the need to create a humanities position to strengthen literacy practices within the area of history and social studies. Under the umbrella of that position, we included projects that we started under the Race to the Top grant and wished to retain. We also added world language. In retrospect, the history position was very broad and all-encompassing. In contrast, all other assistant directors were responsible for only one content area. So, at the outset, the person in the position was handling quite a lot. In the years since, the responsibilities and associated tasks within this position has grown into 3 distinct areas: As a result, we are requesting 3 assistant directors in the areas of history and social studies, world language, and post-secondary readiness. I will proceed to discuss each area and highlight the need for the creation of the 3 separate positions. The first position, we're looking to actually rename the the Assistant Director of Humanities to Assistant Director of History and Social Studies. During the 2018-2019 school year, DESE released new standards for history and social studies. Much work has been done to implement those standards. However, there is ongoing curriculum work that needs time and attention. Some of the textbook series we have will be coming up for adoption in the next couple of years, and this takes much coordination. A curriculum adoption, just like the one you saw earlier tonight for math, requires much time and effort. Shannon Gardner did leave the Civics Research Adoption Committee for grade 8, but it was difficult to do amidst her many other responsibilities. Civics projects are now required by law in middle school and high school. Many of us in the room have been involved in this civics work. This year, the district is participating in many events showcasing student work at all levels, school, city, and state. Shannon Gardner, along with Generation Citizen and 2 amazing teachers, Jenny Winters and Luke Maas, have been coordinating this work. Lynn Public Schools values history and social studies instruction, and we want to apply the energy of a person solely dedicated to growing, supporting, and expanding these projects. In addition, an 8th grade MCAS pilot was conducted this year. This exam has a high level of rigor, just like our other MCAS exams. It is expected that DESE will review the pilot and then institute an 8th grade history MCAS. This brings another level of commitment on the part of the district to ensure that students are adequately prepared for this assessment. In addition to the Civics Education Law, Massachusetts has also passed a Genocide Education Law. This law will require instruction on worldwide genocides. Our current history curriculum includes genocide through the content standards. However, the assistant director must ensure it is being consistently taught, and we do anticipate there will be another state grant to support genocide education, which will need to be managed. The second position we are proposing is an assistant director of world language. When Shannon began working with world language, she led a textbook adoption and worked on curriculum maps and common assessments with teachers. She supported 2 high school department heads and advocated for new language labs in the high school. Recently, DESE has released new standards for foreign language. Anytime there is a release of new standards, the district must familiarize teachers with the standards, revise maps, and possibly update resources. Our textbook series is also expiring, and there will need to be another resource adoption in this area. In addition to that, we do have a statewide shortage of teachers of other languages, for instance, French. If we are committed to growing new world language programs, it is going to take a person solely dedicated to this content. Additionally, we have realized that we have a high percentage of our students that bring a bank of knowledge and proficiency in Spanish language. We need to develop more advanced Spanish language offerings, and this represents another large body for a dedicated curriculum person. The third proposed position is Assistant Director of Post-Secondary Readiness. Much of the work for this role began under Race for the Top, but has rapidly expanded over the past several years. Many of the growing programs you hear about, Early College Promise, and the new high school planned for North Shore Community College are exciting opportunities expected to expand to over 1,000 students annually. Shannon Gardner is the LPS administrator supervising all staff associated with the early college programs. In addition to early college programs, she is a district representative for the After Dark program at LVTI, working with Brian O'Connell and Johanna Smith. All of these programs require high level of interpersonal communication, and associated tasks like grant writing and reporting for DESE. With our early college programs, there are regular meetings and constant daily communication between leaders, teachers, professors, guidance counselors, and department heads from Lynn Public Schools, North Shore Community College, and Salem State University. In addition, Shannon organizes a steering committee for stakeholders. There are many other programs within the scope of this position, like Advanced Placement, AmeriCorps, Educational Talent Search, and Upward Bounds, to name a few. The work that is under this position is rapidly growing and is expected to continue growing as LPS focuses on bringing valuable opportunities to our students. In summary, we have a wonderful person in the humanities position who is trying to accomplish a great deal. To best support our students, we are proposing the reorganization of the humanities director into 3 separate positions. We want to support the tremendous growth happening in the post-secondary readiness realm, and also want to honor the content areas of history and world language by giving them someone who is solely dedicated to those content areas. This move will benefit students because the resulting work from these 3 positions will bring about rich programming and more opportunities for students. So my request is to rename the Assistant Director of Humanities to Assistant Director of History and Social Studies, giving this content its own director. The second request is to create an Assistant Director of World Language to support this content as we do all other contents. And the third request is to create an Assistant Director of Post-Secondary Readiness in acknowledgement of this rapidly expanding area. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Member Gately.
And Dr. Gardner was doing all of these things along with getting her doctorate degree. I have to add that because this is amazing. I just don't, is there any way, like, she has worked to do the history and social studies, and she was solely dedicated to all 3 of these. I mean, she was...
You've seen her here many times presenting in front of you guys, right? Yes.
So, and then, like, she would just, you know, like, I'm trying to think of her position so she won't have to, like, you know, every one of these jobs you'd have to apply to, but she sort of made this job, so is she going to have to go through that and someone else come in and take it from her?
So these are positions that sit in the Lynn School Administrators Association. We would have to go through the process of developing the job descriptions that would need to be impact bargained. And in that contract, there's a requirement that openings be posted, but there's also language in that contract that supports existing members with accessing openings. So I
mean, I wouldn't want to lose her.
I don't think that's not what we're talking about here at all. She supports this, and I think more importantly, there are protections there that would allow her some flexibility.
And I also want to add, I wouldn't want to lose any of our teachers. So I'm really...
Agreed 100%.
I want to get on to that contract, but that's my feeling on this. But
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Capola.
I don't think I heard you clearly, but you said you're eliminating the humanities and that it would be directed into the history and the social studies.
So just replacing it, yes. Because
Okay.
right now we have an Assistant Director of Humanities. We would rename it to Assistant Director of History, Social Studies.
Okay.
So that's a budget neutral move.
It isn't, because it was a $112,000 job. So if somebody, if you're saying that, that was Shannon Gardner, and let's say she goes into Director of History and Socials, then it's a $107,000 job.
Yep.
But
That's the contractual base salary. That's what you start with, and it depends on if the person gets it, they carry longevity, and any educational increments would vary, but that's no different than if we hired a new person off the street that had those ability to get, anything like that, they would also get those benefits too. So for budgeting purposes, on the two, that's 107, that's the base of in the contract for the person to get it. So not knowing who would get it, I would just
Right.
put that as the
Okay.
dollar value to start with.
Okay, and the Director of Post-Secondary Readiness Education would be all of the jobs that encompass our extra programs, including the early college and things like that.
Early college promise, the high school, after dark, that's at LVTI.
Gateway.
Gateway, that would all sit with that person, because it's anything to do with post-secondary readiness.
Here it is.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, I thank you for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda are field trip requests. What's the recommendation of the superintendent?
The recommendation is an enthusiastic one, requesting support for 2 field trips to Canopy Lake Park, one with the 5th grade at Lynn Woods on June 2nd, and a second on June 10th with students from FECT O'Leary.
What's the wish of the committee?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. And then for the second, we'll just do 2 motions. That was for the Lynn Woods Elementary School.
Make a motion for the FECT O'Leary Junior Senior High to Canopy Lake Park, Salem, New Hampshire, on June 10th, 2022.
Second.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. Thank you. Next item is the fiscal year 2023 budget. We received our budgets at the last meeting, and I think Dr. Tawaz received some questions. Yep.
Yes, want to thank the members for sending along questions. I believe the questions and the responses, which are in blue, are in your packets. This is a compilation of all the questions that we received, including questions up to, I think we got a set at about 3:30 today, but we're able to get responses to those. Happy to go in any direction the committee wishes relative to these questions or other ones that are front of mind.
Member Magnolia, Member Pena.
So I'm asking about the question that didn't get answered on my questions about supplies budgets not being increased and the wisdom of that, given what we have seen with inflation in the world and like everything costs more money now. So I'm wondering about why none of those supplies budgets that I had listed were upped, just knowing it's going to cost more.
So something got lost in translation because I typed a response.
Oh, okay.
I don't know where it went.
Okay, it's not in here, so that's why I was like, explain it, please.
Totally okay. And Mr. McHugh can jump in and fill in any gaps. So the supplies budget listed on the curriculum page is just for that office. I think it's a little more than $12,000. There are school-based supplies allocations, and then most of the curriculum department's budget is wrapped up in materials, books, things of that nature. So if that's what you're referring to, the
Well, so I noticed this on a number, so it's in curriculum, but it's also in the technology budget for under supplies. That's not increased, right? The second page of the finance budget, which I'm assuming is like, office supplies, right? And the athletics budget. So I noticed this at different places throughout, that when we're talking about just the line item supplies, it's carried over year to year. And my concern was the wisdom of doing that, knowing that, like, even the bag of lettuce that I used to spend $2.99 for is now $4.99. To not budget for an increase seemed to me in all these other areas, they're individual line items in, 5 different tabs, but that's going to add up really quickly to not be, we were talking about the curriculum, right? So say that one goes over 2,000, then this one goes over, that's what I wanted to know. So that was the specific one, but it was more the global approach to just that supplies line in a number of areas not being increased.
Just on the school supplies, we haven't, it's been 2 years since we updated the school supplies. So if you go through a school supplies, just to take you through the process, last year we didn't do anything, but we go through request of principals, and we haven't received a real request. But I try to every so often maintain, and I went from $45 to $50 a student. So if you take the number at the top left that has the enrollment, multiply by that $50, that's pretty much what the schools get. And it seems to work. Like most of the schools still have balances in their school account for supplies as of this week. So they haven't run out, but I do up it because I do realize that's the most important. They need supplies in the schools. The teachers need their supplies. So we start there. My department's finance. I think I'm fine. I'm pretty frugal with ordering, so I'm fine. And technology, we've leveraged a lot over the last couple of years. If we need some additional things, we're going to use the ESSER funds as a way to make that work. So we have some ESSER funds left that we can use as our emergency for some additional supplies if needed.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to make sure I got into the budget, the schools first, because
Yeah.
that's where I think everything's needed right off the bat. So we want to make sure they have plenty going forward. And you're right, there is inflation. It's actually going up faster than when I put put this together. Started back in the end of January, early February. So I put that in right off the bat, so we could get that in the budget. So.
Yeah, and the athletics was the last one that I was really surprised that the supplies wasn't being upped for, because the same idea. I just have to imagine that's more expensive.
Yeah, it's, again, we have some backup ways to make something happen there, so I think that we're not at that point of having to, and, we had some transition this year with people, so during the budget process as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Pena. And then Member Gately.
Hi, I had some questions about the early college program. So why are we starting that with a principal when there's only 100 kids? Like, why can't we start with a program specialist? And then I see we're looking for 9 teachers. Why not 4?
So I'll work backwards. We wanted to make sure we had enough teachers to cover the full complement of high school classes that the students need to take. And so, all of your core content areas, English, math, science, social studies, there's health and phys ed, all of the core content. Those students are still required to take the same things that a 9th grader at English Classical Tech or FECT O'Leary would take. And so that number represents what we need to accomplish that. And in many ways, this is a new school that requires, building level oversight. Program specialists, super important role in our district. Typically, those positions in terms of building leadership are at the elementary level. We do have program specialists who do data at the middle school level and at the high school level, but overseeing the smooth functioning of a building in a way that a principal would. Would need to be impact bargain, because that's not really their role. And B, it doesn't fit, the scope of the work that they do.
Okay. Also, so I want to go to the Welcome Center. Saw some things there that kind of got to my attention. So why are we asking for a social worker in the Welcome Center, where the Roman went? I think we need our social workers in the schools.
Well, the good news there, Mr. Pena, is that there are a lot of them in this budget that are going to schools. But we also think the process through which we welcome families into the district needs to be comprehensive. And I'll lean on Deputy Superintendent Powers to say a little
So
bit
the
more.
idea there is about welcoming families in, but many of our families come in and need connections to multiple different services within the community. And they're going to be that bridge to those services, and they're going to be that bridge also to their school community. It's really going to be about assessment and referral. It's going to be the primary focus of that worker.
So are they going to replace the parent liaison? Because don't we have some parent liaisons in there? In the welcome, so is the social worker going to replace the parent? Because isn't that what the parent liaison?
It's a different skill set. As Ms. Powers was outlining, this is one of the seminal responsibilities for social workers is, that screen, understanding what needs are, and then making connections, whether it's an agency in the community or, the smooth handing off to the school social worker with an understanding around what the needs are so that those
So you feel like
needs
having
could be
it
met.
there would probably start the process to immediately get those services that kids need, meeting them right at the Welcome Center.
Right.
Immediately, right away.
We think it's important to not wait until the need arises through some other, manifestation, that to be very intentional and purposeful when we're welcoming families in to really understand what their needs are, and that's what this person would.
And so many of our families come in with such a plethora of needs, whether it's health care, they don't have health care. They're coming in with social emotional needs. They're coming in with housing needs. I mean, it runs the gamut. And connecting families with those services in the community immediately to get those needs met feels like a good way to go in terms of assessment and.
So, and another question I had there in the Welcome Center, you're adding another enrollment and family engagement specialist. We already have one there. You're adding another one, a second?
I'd have to look at that.
That was one of our requests.
Why are we adding
By
another
request.
one?
The director felt that the need and the volume in there was such that an additional hand was necessary.
I mean, our Welcome Center is running smooth.
I think so, and there's some incredible professionals in there, and the director's doing an incredible job. But we also, now that she's had the benefit of experiencing, the busiest times of registration, which will happen later on this summer, and then some of the additional things that can be done when, the activity is not as robust. We really thought it was important to respect that request.
I just think adding another one, I think is not going to be effective, because, we're doing already a good job with one, and especially coming off a year that we had with COVID, and they did such a, good job there at the Welcome Center. There's a lot of, there's more. The Spanish speaking is very, bilingual, like the message, and I don't see the need for another, a family engagement specialist, And then in the multilingual education department, why are we adding a deputy director when we already have a director with 3 assistants?
Yeah, so that was part of my presentation, a piece of the formal presentation last time. And just to be clear, the number of Ls in our district has doubled over the past 5, 6, 7 years. The number of ESL staff has tripled over the past 5, 6, 7 years. We've added 1 additional administrator, and we've added new curriculum. There's a dual language program. These are things I'm just recalling from that presentation, but that part of our professional organization has expanded significantly, and this is a capacity thing. So we're actually going to come back on the 26th and do a deeper dive on that.
Yeah,
proposal.
I'd like to see that. And then last, you have 2 testing specialists, but now they want to add a language assessment manager and a language assessment specialist. You already have 2 people testing. Why are they, I mean, why add in?
One of those, we provided you updated sheets in your packet. One's actually a testing specialist. I actually miscategorized that when it was in. So there's a manager that's new, and we're adding another testing. So instead of 2, there'll be 3.
So just by, and I can also bring or give you specifics in terms of the numbers because I'm not recalling them immediately. But if you look at kindergarten registration, for example, to say that the overwhelming majority of the students who register are L's would be an understatement. I think it's north of 90%.
Yeah.
And so when you're registering 1,100 or so, maybe more, new students, we want to make sure we have a good customer service model for our families. And so we want them to be able to be assessed so that they're ready to go to school immediately. We don't want long wait times. We want to make sure that we have the capacity and the staffing to meet families' needs immediately. So that's why that request is there.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Gately.
My question about school supplies in the elementary and high school and how different it is, like the monies that they get, and hearing from my teachers that they need in elementary, the larger schools, they need printers because they're purchasing their own printers to print out their work for their school day. I don't think that $50 per student is cutting it, Kevin, Mr. McHugh. It's simply not cutting it. And screens and windows, we need screens and windows, deputies. When you talk to Steve, you can tell him Ingalls is a huge problem there, and I brought that up several times, and I'm getting tired of asking for the simple things for our teachers so they can meet the needs of our students. And this is a simple thing to make sure that if you have 500, 800 students, say in Ingalls, you have 2 or 3 RISOs in that building. So it's accessible to everybody, and there's paper and there's service. We have to think a little bit larger, and we have to focus on the needs of our teachers so that they can meet those challenges. They shouldn't have to go out and buy printers for themselves, but they are dedicated, and they are doing that, and they always have. But it's like Dr. Magnolia said, in this time where everything is costing so much money because of inflation, we need to focus on these little details that we have all this money. Why not help them by getting what they need and actually asking them what they want or need? It's like every single year for the past 7 years, I've looked at that that second sheet of school supplies, and it says basically the same thing, and it might have gone up maybe $100. So I'd like to see that improve a little bit. In the high schools, I don't know about their labs. All I know is when I was teaching high school biology, I got a little not a stipend, but I had an order form that I could order all the supplies I wanted from that order form. It was my wish list, and I got it filled. But it's not happening, I don't think. I'm not sure. Then I wanted to know about why do we need 3 VPs at Thurgood Marshall?
Yeah, I can respond to that. I just want to quickly touch on one of the questions that you just asked about the difference between high school and elementary. It's a per student calculus, and I think that we need to peel back a few layers and figure out what's going on, because as Mr. McHugh just mentioned, this is an annual thing. When we look at what's remaining in supplies funding around this time of the year, April, May, there's still money there. And so we have to figure out what's getting lost between the need, because there are resources there. The third VP at Marshall, in the response, I just talked about briefly the idea that sameness in the schools has been the modus operandi in the district for at least as long as I've been here, probably longer, and there's a lot of wisdom in that to a point. Then we want to listen to building leaders and what they express as being a need for them. Breed, very similar enrollment. Actually, it's a little, Marshall has more students this year for the first time, and I think in a long time or ever. But it's not necessarily about the enrollment calculus. It's what the principal sees as a need in her building. And so when we saw that, and it was, when we have principals and directors complete that budget Excel form, we have them rank by number their asks. This was way up there, the request for the VP. But when we saw that, we immediately reached out to Breed, similar school demographics enrollment, and asked if that need was there, and the principal said no. We have our thing going, but the principal at Marshall felt differently about her school. And so I think it's important for us to listen and honor that request and be okay with there being some differences between the schools.
Another question I have is, and as I was going through the budget, I thought about this. Like, I saw the bid sheets. I saw the lack of people taking jobs. And I said to myself, how can we go through our budget and how can we add more administrators, say in EL, add those people, when our teachers aren't secure? We're not going to be in like CITs and coaches that are being added. If there's no teachers, then we're not going to be able to do this. So who are they going to be helping? So it's like, in my mind, I was getting really frustrated. It took me a long time, Mary, to get those questions, but I'm very frustrated because I just saw two of my former students present, and they're teaching in Lynn, and I have two other former students that are over at KIPP Academy because they didn't want to come to Lynn, and we need to fix that. We need to fix that before we have more and more on the top administrators and not enough people in the field. It bothers me. It bothers me. Two students right now that are in our district just sat there and told us that they might leave. And they're great. And I already lost two to KIPP before they even came in. And we're focusing on all of these other jobs and not focusing on what the teachers need. They need these things in their classrooms. And it's frustrating for me to stand here and even tear up because you're nowhere without your teachers. We're nowhere. And we can hire as many administrators, but until we pay our teachers, until we get our teachers into these jobs that are being posted, what's the point? You can have people telling people what to do all the time. Their class sizes are too large in the high schools. I don't know. I'm going to take a break.
I do, but I want to honor Member Gately's comments by responding when she's able to hear it.
Okay.
So I can wait.
Do we want to take a recess or? All right, we'll take a recess. Member Gately had submitted a question for our consideration. Dr. Tarwater, did you?
Yeah, I don't mean to be rude or disrespectful. I don't remember what the question was, but I did hear really clearly your heartfelt comments about our staff and need, and I just want you to know that I hear that really clearly. And I would say that while the discussion has been in part this evening about some leadership roles, I would just remind you that that only makes up 7% of the total number of positions that we're proposing in this budget. The other 93% are really designed to be direct service or direct service in some administrative responsibilities. I believe really, really strongly, and we heard it tonight, about adding staff so that we can reduce caseloads where possible, class sizes, where we can, in special education, meet timelines, provide the services on students' grids. This budget does that. Achieve the national recommendation for the ratio of students to social worker, 250 per every social worker. This budget does that. But at the same time, all of those really important direct service professionals do need support, and it's not. We want to create the right balance in this district of direct service and support, and so I just wanted to say that in response. But going back to the very beginning, I hear you 100%, and in many ways, I don't disagree.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Magnolia, yes.
So I just want to state something for the record here. I asked the question, you answered it, but I want to make sure that folks who are listening at home have these numbers so they understand something. Okay, so the question that I asked was about our out-of-district placements within the special education budget. And the question was that line item is over $10 million. And you answered to me that serves about 200 students. So for the folks listening at home, we spend 5% of the overall total budget of the entire Lynn Public Schools on these specific 200 students, to the tune of $10 million. And that averages out to about $50,000 per student we spend to send students out of district. And I just want to make sure that's correct.
It is.
Thank you very much.
And Member Magnolia, to your point on the questions and answers, I think in the past we've also posted these along with the budget, which is for issues that we don't cover in the meeting that if people are curious about. Yeah.
So just to make sure, though, that we also post that the superintendent and deputy superintendents are not getting raises. Because that was my question that also didn't get answered in that weird kind of, it got lost in the ether.
Yeah, I responded to that also. We're all on individual contracts, and that doesn't reflect in the year-to-year budget pages.
Thank you.
Member Capola.
Okay, I did send this question to you, but I'm still not clear on it. We're changing a lot of positions to be clinical supervisors. And the difference, because I think some of them were clinical directors maybe that were changed, and some were adjustment counselors were changed, which are like about $75,000 or $76,000. The clinical supervisors are $104,000 plus. And your answer was that we're replacing them and they'll carry a caseload of students and be responsible for evaluation and supervision of the social workers, and which justifies the pay, you say. The problem is there's one going in almost every school, or at least a half of one, and there's only one social worker in there. So, for a job to have supervision of the social workers on a one-to-one, I just don't understand that. it's just passing me by here. Not clear on it.
Okay. So, and I'll need my team to keep me honest, I don't think there's any school where there's a 1-to-1 ratio of clinical supervisor to social worker, unless I missed something. So for example, in our proposal, Lynn English would have 8 social workers, and there'd be a clinical supervisor there. Lynn Classical, 7, and a clinical supervisor. And the idea here stems back 3 years to 2 years through negotiations with both the Lynn Teachers Union and the Lynn School Administrators Association to address a framework that was inequitable and I'll just leave it there. So the clinical supervisor was heretofore known as a school adjustment counselor. School adjustment counselors and social workers carry the same license, but there's a notable difference in their pay. They both were direct service professionals. One belonged to the Teachers Union, one belongs to the Administrators Association. We wanted to create a scenario where the professionals who are in the Lynn School Administrators Association had leadership responsibilities to justify the difference in pay. And so this is still a work in progress in negotiations. I just want to maybe leave it there, but I'll lean on Ms. Powers to cover any gaps that I might have.
No, I think you covered it pretty well. We began this work over 2 years ago, and it was done with an equity lens and looking at the role of both the school adjustment counselor and the social worker. I mean, the primary difference in their roles was that school adjustment counselors carry a special education caseload. But in terms of their designation as an administrator at that time or in currently, they don't carry any administrative responsibilities per se for supervision and evaluation, but there's a huge pay differential. So the work with that team was done with an equity lens to try and change that situation and look at that inequity. And so the work that came out of that was a model where school adjustment counselors became clinical supervisors and then had to also carry administrative responsibilities with that role. And we're still working on with the LSAA in terms of the definition of their role.
Can I just add something? Donna, you mentioned one clinical supervisor and only one social worker. And so like Ford, for example, I'm looking at Ford's page, and that's exactly what it has. It's one clinical supervisor and one social worker. But on the SEL tab, there are 15 social workers listed there. Ford actually has, what is it, two social workers in that school. So there are social workers that are not accounted for on the school pages, but on the SEL page, there are 15 listed there that are going to be placed into the schools. And then Kevin will make the adjustments.
And I think I started not in the high school, but I, just started at the top of the alphabet with, Avon, Brickett, Callahan. I
Right.
went in that direction. And there was one with a half a supervisor, one-on-one. And so just.
It's all based on student enrollment, so that we got to that 1 to 250 ratio of clinician.
Okay, if you haven't finished negotiations, how does it hit the budget? That's, just a.
So
To answer it, I'm assuming
can.
you're just questioning it. Yeah.
I can. The social worker addition is fine. The clinical supervisor position actually already exists in the LSAA contract. The only thing that needs to be completed is the job description. So we will do that in negotiations.
Also, under the early college, my concern is I'm not sure, maybe Lenny already asked this thing, but, having a principal and a full thing with 100 students, and I know the intent is to grow, but the reality is, we haven't voted on it yet, but made a vote on that. But is there any way it can be more than 100 students? Because I'll be honest with you, you're going to have issues with parents from Breed and Pickering who feel as though they don't have that option. I should look at the thing because also there's no ESL or SPED involved in it.
There is.
There is?
Mhm.
Okay. Let me try to find the early college. Okay, found it. I was going by here, which says teacher ESL. It doesn't have a teacher there.
It's
It
on
has the
Ranya's page. It's on Ranya's page.
It's an itinerant position. Itinerant positions are, ESL itinerant positions sit on Ranya's page.
On the ELE page, the MLE page.
Okay.
Same with the resource teachers. Those are itinerant, so they.
Well, if we know we have those students, why isn't it on the early college page to give us a budget that really can be understood that way? And as far as SPED, I don't know, anyways, I know it has to probably come before us anyways for a vote on that. So the other thing is, Kevin, under yours on the financial, the paper that's 259,000 plus, is that for the entire system?
Yes.
Okay. And we hear all the time that for a lack of paper. So does that run out, or you still
No,
have money on that line?
I still have some money
We
left.
can let
and
them know?
We normally, even if we have money left at the end of the year, I buy and we put it aside for next year as a starting point. So we have a system that's set up that people just actually order it themselves that goes directly to the school. And we've always had some backup bulk if they needed to. They would call here, and we have our person that makes deliveries around that would deliver any extra that we need be.
Okay. And under network, I don't know, I need an alphabetical here next time. I'm not seeing network.
Technology.
Technology.
It's under technology, okay. Yep, okay. There's 2 jobs added on the assistant database managers. What is that anyways?
Those are 2 positions that we feel that we have so much information now with buying all the computers that we have to get it all compiled. And my big concern is that with the millions of dollars we spent on grants to fund those, and if we get it, we're gonna have to be prepared for an audit that we need to identify where every computer is in the system. And like part of the rationale is also every student can only receive 1 grant-funded computer. If they break it, lose it, disappears, they cannot get another grant-funded. So it's basically managing every student, what device they have, and where it is. When I first started here, I'll just use an example, we received some federal funds, and they came from the federal government from Washington, D.C., and they were in the ceilings looking at routers and looking at serial numbers to make sure our systems match where that was. And at the first blush, they couldn't find some things, and they were requesting $200,000 back. So we had to dig deeper and find it. So the goal is, I don't want to see that happen. I want to make sure that we can show the government where every computer was or where it is. And we need people to be managing that on a day-to-day basis, because every day we have students either losing, breaking. We have new students coming in on a regular basis, so we have to make sure those get entered into the system. So there's a lot more database management going on within that department than there ever has been, and with the ticketing system as well. So we're trying to compartmentalize it into 2 people that are going to handle that on a day-to-day basis. And those positions exist in the LSAA department.
Okay, and I think Ms. Gately already talked about this, but as far as the Xerox machines, there just aren't enough in all these buildings. And scanners, that's brought up all the time, that they just don't have access to scanning. I mean, even in the sped department where I think there's only one scanner there or something, they're scanning all the time.
All our copy machines can scan, number one, so that's the first thing. SPED department had scanners because they used to upload the IEPs to a software system. So every clerical person in an office had one. If they don't have them, we need to know that.
I
Are they
think
not
they've
using it?
switched to a new system that doesn't require
the scanning
that step. Yeah.
Okay, so.
Okay, but where would the scanners have gone then? That's a good question.
Oh, I don't know.
You know what
They
I
were
mean?
in that. Last I know they were in there because we
Yeah.
used to scan and they
And do
used to
we,
upload it.
We have records that, follow where everything is, and, if you walk back in there, if there were scanners, and they're not using them anymore, can they be moved to other places?
If people need them, but again, every copy machine we have throughout the system, you can scan.
Okay.
So, for example, I have one, when I'm out in the area, the foyer area, I just put it in, it scans it, and then I can upload it from there, wherever I need to use it.
Okay.
I think we had Member Castellanos, Member Pena, Member Dugan, Member Gately.
I have a lot of questions, but I'll start with, thank you, Kevin, for providing us with this budget series, and also Dr. Tutwiler and all my colleagues for sharing their input on this process. I wanted to, shed some light on some of the voices that I heard today. I think it really was pretty impactful, pretty concerned, actually, when we talk about capacity. And I see in the SOA Act priorities, the 4 that you listed out, I see the, when we say we're looking to increase staff to decrease caseloads, I see like we're looking to do this, but it looks like we're in a hiring crisis. Like for me, when I see all these positions, it's a concern. Today I heard we had an individual state that they have a caseload of 48, but they're operating between 70 and 80. Stated wrong and unethical, and they went through the horror story of what that looked like, and it really it bothered me. It bothered me a lot because I think about the kids and the students that we're looking to get them to graduation. We look to get them through the day-to-day, and special ed is, I see that we're trying to make these investments. Could we talk about, when I looked at you have 28 speech therapists, is that correct? In the line, Kevin, was that an error, or was that 28? We're trying to add 28 therapists, speech therapists?
No, there's 4 on the budget this year.
So what's the 28?
Maybe 28 total.
Okay, that's what I
I think there were
wanted.
8 added last year.
I'm trying to compare when I'm going back and forth, I just want to make sure. And when we put these positions on, on our radar, are we collaborating with our compliance officer to assess with Felicia? Is that how when you're assessing our capacity for this, right? When we're talking, this is how we're successfully going to look to decrease caseloads. What was that process like in terms of filling those actual investments? Like, how do we come up with these numbers? That's what.
Yeah, it honestly is pretty uncomplicated. We know how many students require those services. We know what the caseloads have been historically, and we've been actively adding positions to bring those caseloads down. The challenge has been filling those positions, but I would respectfully say that's not a reason to not post them or not to propose them in a budget. We should absolutely still do that, and then it's our work and our responsibility to pull out every stop and try to find these people. That this year in particular was filling positions was a challenge felt not just in Lynn, like in many school districts, and you know, we're gonna give it our best effort again this year to try to fill those positions, because we want to see the caseloads come down.
Thank you. And for social workers and the clinical supervisors, I did see Deputy Ruggiero, thank you for pointing out, because they were sprinkled in there, because I was trying to figure out where they were. They were all throughout. And to aim at, you know, having those ratios cut at that level it's been a long time. I think it's been something that I know they've been working on for a long time. The social workers work really hard. And I heard those concerns a long time ago, and to address that, I see that, you know, I see the objectives here. I just feel like at this moment we are in a crisis, and we need to pursue hiring in a crisis fashion, as you heard today. I heard loud and clear the priorities that were mentioned today, and we'll have our moment to have these conversations in executive session. I just respectfully want to just make that known that I am pretty concerned about what I heard tonight.
Member Pena.
Yeah, just to go back to the technology, when we what she just brought up about 2 assistant database managers. When during the pandemic, you know, when we first got the laptops out, I think the IT department was kind of small, right? And then they added some more, and because I remember going when we first had to get a laptop, I'm speaking as a parent, it was a little hard, but I can say that I got 3 boys, so you know. We're all at that, you know, our maximum. I think next time, you know, something happens, you're responsible. So, and I called and this happened today. I called today early, and I said, you know, his laptop won't turn on. He's got MCAS tomorrow, and it was resolved early today. So I think we should, you know, maybe try to get some data or find out, do we really need these 2 positions? Because I think they're running pretty good. You know, right now, over there at like you said we might need to add 2 positions to monitor or to keep track with some of the devices we have. I think they're doing pretty good. I mean, you know, from where they were when we first opened now, and they're adding more IT people. I think they're doing a pretty good job there. I think they have track of all the devices. Now, you said that there was some of they had to get, you know, the codes for that. Maybe we could just have 1 person for that. I mean, having 2 positions that, you know, I'm just looking here where we could, you know, save costs and probably add, you know, more positions where they're more effective, or push money towards the teachers more, you know, instead of, but I don't see where we can have to add 2 when we didn't have one. We didn't have one, you know, we didn't even have a database manager a year ago. And I think they're doing pretty good there in that department. That's just.
My concern is that the person that runs this department obviously sees it as a need, number 1. Number 2, in interacting with him, I think we have a lot of spreadsheets. And my concern is managing spreadsheets versus getting everything into a database system and managing that way. And there's always going to be discrepancies about this, and being able to
Yeah.
My big concern is I want to be able to make sure I can identify where everything is. We've spent, I think, over $6 million through grants to buy computers.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, Logan Airport's right down the street. They get off the plane in Washington, they come right here.
Yeah.
It's a short little ride, and I don't want to have to sit here and say, I'm sorry, we can't find things, and they want things. I'm just very concerned. I would have, he came to me with this request and saying that these are very needed.
So this is a request from the IT department?
Yeah, from the IT department, and it's not really mine. I know what they're doing, because I have this, so I kind of approved that request, figuring that this is important, this is what we need to make sure that we can really stand behind where everything is. The other folks that are handling the day-to-day issues, those are our technicians. They're out fixing things. They're answering the help desk questions. They're also interacting. But you need someone to take that information and then make sure it's managed properly.
Don't they already have that in place? That's what I'm saying. That we don't have track of all the devices and through enrollment and all the students. Don't we have that kind of that data?
It's in multiple forms right now, and that's my concern.
Okay.
I don't want to lose a database. I don't want to lose an Excel sheet that has certain stuff on it, and then it's, now you got 5 different Excel sheets going, trying to figure out what's going on. So we need to coordinate this. They'll be doing some other, administrative things at their level through monitoring and things of that nature, but this is, to me, a lesser, there's other higher positions. I'm trying to bring people in to kind of save some money at that point and get 2 people versus going for the higher jobs and getting
Maybe we
somebody
should try it
else.
with one person, maybe, is that
Well,
two?
I recommend 2 at this point. It's up to the school committee to decide what they wish to do.
I just think about where we were 2 years ago. I mean, pre-pandemic, we were not one-to-one. Every student in this district has a device. Every teacher in this district has a device. To manage and support those numbers, that department has had to grow and will need to continue to grow to provide the level of support needed. Just adding.
Thank you.
Member Dugan.
Okay, yeah, thank you for all your work that went into this budget, obviously, and answering my questions ahead of time, which made it easier. I don't have a ton, but I guess mine's a broader question, and forgive me if this could be just me being new, but the ESSER money and the student opportunity money, that all runs out 2026?
Yes.
Okay.
26? No.
25.
25.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So those positions we're creating with that grant money, are we going to leave a committee, having to make cuts at that point because that grant money has run out? I guess that's my question.
So I just want to first make a point of clarification.
Yes.
You mentioned 2 things. You
Okay.
said
The
SOA and ESSER.
ESSER.
The SOA is a 7-year commitment
Okay.
from the state. We're in the second.
We're in the second year.
We are in the second year of that. So we've got 5 more to go. And then the SOA, the ESSER money runs out 25. So there is a sort of tight time horizon on that. As I've mentioned before, part of the promise connected to the Student Opportunity Act is that each year with the additions, the increases in Chapter 70 funding, there's a promise not to go backward from that. So we received a very healthy increase this year. Next year may not be as much, I don't know, but it won't go the opposite direction. And so these additions, we're comfortable staying. There are some of them that are sitting in grant funds, but that goes back to the process that we engaged at the very beginning of every budget development, which is first to do what we call off-the-top expenditures, steps, lanes, things of that nature, transportation, and then moving into appropriations positions out of grants. So.
All right, thank you.
Member Gately.
One of my questions here is elementary early childhood principal. Where is that early childhood going to be? Where is the school?
It is a satellite position. I'd mentioned this in the, actually, I think it might be in my narrative, but I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in the last presentation also. So with the expanding need to open pre-K classrooms, we've developed partnerships with organizations in the city, and typically we will partner a school with that satellite location. So for example, Washington Elementary, that principal oversees the pre-K classrooms at the YMCA.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is it's really hard to do that. And so if there's a need that comes up during the day, if there's, I think last week we had a coverage issue, with everything that's going on in their school, it's hard to also satisfy the needs and deal with what is needed in those satellite locations. And so in working with special education, the assistant directors don't have the capacity. Actually, many of them are still in the classroom day to day. We just don't have the capacity to support the needs of those teachers. And given that we intend to expand pre-K satellite locations, we really need someone to provide support for all of those locations every single day, and it cannot be an existing building principal.
All right, thank you. Then I have one more for you, Mr. McHugh. In finance, I noticed that our moving cost stays the same.
The moving cost? Yeah, that's an estimate based on what we expect every year to utilize.
So what happens when we end up finding space and having to make moves and
We always manage within the budget from either somewhere else that there's some savings or everything else, but typically we try to stay within. It's worked out because every year we end up sometimes moving special education classrooms around, so that numbers tends to work for us, so.
So you don't think you need to increase that a little?
Well, I try to just be, fiscal responsibility on that and say if I think we can live within that, we're gonna try to live within that number. So, I mean, if I need a couple $1,000s, there's always going to be something somewhere else that I could probably pull from if I had to.
Oh.
Hopefully there'll be savings somewhere else.
Okay, and one other for you, Mr. McHugh. Are teachers trained on the copy machines for scanners and their functions? Like, maybe some teachers don't know that on your risograph machine that you have a scanner, a function, you have all these things, and how to use it.
Yeah, we have two different companies that provide those. They both have come in. If a principal needs them to come in to train the staff, they're available to train the staff. So if that's ever an issue, they just need to contact us and we'll call a company and they sent them out. So when we do a refresh, like we'll be actually periodically, I think like in the summer, we'll be getting we lease them. So when they run out on the lease, because I always want to lease, because after 3 years, they start to fall apart. They get utilized, they really do, in some schools more than others. So the new lease will come in, they'll put them in over the summer, so they'll show up in September, and they're there to help teachers, walk through the new features there. So anyone that wants them, they're there for a day or so. They usually spend like a half a day at a school, so as teachers have their breaks, they can come by and kind of do training. But if you know of anybody, send them my way, we'll send the company, they'll gladly go out and work with the people.
Dr. Tutwiler, I was just thinking with all the staff we may be getting in, all our new staff, we need to let principals know that they need to get trained on these RISOs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Member Capola?
I'm just wondering, nowhere in this does it say anything about space. So I'm just wondering that, how do we solve the problem of class size if we actually don't have the space? And, there's no reasons for teachers to have to be having cots, pushing from place to place. There'd be nothing worse than not having your own particular space and having to do that. But, this isn't something that all of us just heard tonight. If anybody read the survey, it was over and over and over. They've told us over and over the same things they said to us tonight. So it's not a mystery, not anything new. But, to solve those problems is going to require space. So what are we doing about that?
Yeah, so that is the adaptive challenge, particularly at our secondary level, middle and high school, the large comprehensive high schools, and even at Lynn Tech in their core content areas, the class sizes are sizable. Lynn Tech actually has space to allow for additional staff to have classes, and so in the budget, if you go to their page, you will notice that there are an addition of 6 teachers, which will help with the class sizes there. There are also additions of teachers at classical, English, and all of the middle schools. The challenge is, where do you go with them? For English and classical, where I think the challenge is most acute, and I'm not marginalizing the concerns that the middle school educators expressed earlier today. We do see over time the expansion with the early college high school is helping. It does start only with 100 students, and we can talk more about that at our next meeting, but, you know, we are guests there, and so we have to work within, you know, within their limits as well. I've also asked Mike Donovan to begin to explore and price out the feasibility of adding additional modular classrooms at both sites. English is probably easier than classical, given the setup with the parking lots, but he is looking into that, and once he has something concrete, I will bring that back with a proposal to you. Those are also helpful. I would not consider those an overarching solution. It will help, but it is not the overarching solution. So we continue to try to be creative, which we see the early college, high school as, you know, being just that, and trying to solve this issue. One other thing, one of the teachers who spoke today did speak about the co-teaching model, which, you know, is usually something that you spend a long time planning for, right? It's not just something you do. There needs to be, you know, a match, chemistry-wise between the teachers, and lots of professional development. Otherwise, you'll have a situation where, you know, you have one teacher and then another one who's sort of, you know, really performing almost like a paraprofessional in the classroom. A true co-teaching model takes time, but that is something that we could also explore. Does not fix the number of students in the classroom, but it does create more opportunities for personalized instruction when there are more educators in the room.
Thank you. Thank you to the committee for all the questions and discussion, and administration for the proposal. Appreciate everyone sharing there. So next item on the agenda is our standing operating protocols check-in.
Yeah, we don't need to do, start right in. Anything formal. I just wanted to make sure that this was a standing opportunity for us to revisit the norms, see how things are going. If there needs to be a norm or an operating protocol that needs to be emphasized, it's really just a reflection opportunity. Again, probably in the coming weeks, I'll work with Mary to identify some dates during the summer, likely for a retreat where we can revisit these in more robust fashion to determine, you know, whether we want to throw them out and start fresh or make some tweaks to what's there. But norms are no good if you never reflect on them. So that's why it's on the agenda tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Telweiler.
Pleasure.
All right, Member Pena, any votes taken in the athletic subcommittee?
No, sir.
Member Magnolia, curriculum subcommittee.
Yes, sir. Can we read out the vote that was taken in the curriculum subcommittee, please?
Ms. Gately made a motion to accept the illustrative math curriculum and move it to the full committee.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. Is that it for curriculum?
That's it for
All right,
curriculum.
thank you. Member Capola, personnel.
Yes, Personnel Subcommittee made a motion to move the job posting to the full committee.
Dr. Telweiler?
If I could, I'd like to recommend that the committee table this until the next meeting.
Motion to table.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. Would the committee like to move to amend the order of the agenda to move the request for executive session to the end of the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Communications and information, Dr. Talweiler.
Yes, first, there should be an enrollment report in your packets that is hot off the presses for the month of May. And then there's also a copy of this evening's superintendent's report. In it, I do acknowledge that there is an uptick in positive COVID cases, obviously in the city, in our schools, and across the state. Our nursing team continues to be vigilant and respond quickly when there are cases. There's a set of recommendations that we make in the event that there's a cluster, 2, 3, or more cases in a class. I'll continue to keep you informed on our strategies to address those issues. I also name pretty emphatically that at present we are planning to move forward with all of our plans for events and so forth, barring any unforeseen issues. So we are aware of the uptick. We are addressing it to the extent that we're able, partnering with families. But right now, plans are on as planned. And then finally, relative to the building project, the Pickering building project, we're continuing to move forward in earnest. As has been the case since the submission of the statement of interest, we've consistently completed action items on or before the established deadlines. In recent weeks, the subcommittee of the building committee, whose responsibility it is to choose the owner's project manager, has been meeting on the topic. After the request for proposals for the owner's project managers closed, the subcommittee evaluated the proposals, created a short list for interview, and then interviewed that short list. In short order, that process will be finalized and an owner's project manager announced. This puts us in a very good position to proceed with next steps, which involves the identification of a designer and the feasibility study. For those who are interested, this goes up electronically. There is a link to the Mass School Building Authority's website. This link actually will take you to the steps involved with each phase. So I welcome folks to familiarize themselves through that link. That is all.
Thank you, Dr. Tutwiler. Looking for a motion to go into executive session for the reasons stated. Yeah.
Motion to go into executive session.
Could you just?
Second.
Yep, for the session minutes from the March 31, 2022 school committee meeting, and then to discuss strategies with respect to collective bargaining relative to the Lynn Teachers Union involving strategy in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on and comprise the bargaining position of the public body.
So moved.
Okay, great.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Yes. A motion to return to regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. There was one vote taken in executive session to approve the executive session minutes from the March 31st, 2002 school committee meeting. So motion to accept in regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. See no further business.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. Thank you.
Deb,
You're welcome.
you need like a set